All right, the fallout continues today in the death of Jeffrey Epstein, now that we are learning that he signed a will just 2 days before his death. This news comes after the removal of the acting head of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons as prosecutors dropped the indictment charges against Epstein. But that doesn't mean the investigation is over. RT correspondent John Huddy has been following the story from the get-go. He's joining us live with more to this. John?
You bet. Well, yeah, the Epstein saga very much continues. Manila, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr announced that he's replacing the acting Federal Bureau of Prisons Chief Hugh Hurwitz with former BOP Chief Kathleen Hawk Sawyer, who was director actually from 1992 to 2003 during Barr's first run, his first stint as Attorney General under George H.W. Bush. So they're well known to each other. The announcement comes, of course, after Epstein's jailhouse death, August 10th, when his body was found in his jailhouse cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, the MCC as it's known, in Manhattan. His death has since been ruled a suicide by hanging. In the wake of Epstein's contentious and controversial death, Barr called it, quote, appalling, saying there were serious irregularities at the jail, resulting ultimately in the transfer of the MCC's warden, and the 2 guards who were charged with watching Epstein were placed on administrative leave pending an ongoing investigation. Now, one of Epstein's lawyers, Mark Furnish, told RT that Epstein should not have been held at the MCC, which he described as a quote-unquote hellhole, where he said the conditions are inhumane. Listen.
The facility is barbaric, and it's a hellhole. It's like, I don't use the word lightly, but it's sort of like an American gulag for people who have not yet been convicted of anything.
Now, Furnish also argued that Epstein should have been allowed to post bail and not be held at the MCC, saying he was not a quote-unquote violent individual and was not an escape risk like, say, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who was an inmate at the MCC. That's debatable. As the investigation, though, into Epstein's death and the fallout continues and the shakeup at the Bureau of Prisons, the lead prosecutor in the federal indictment against Epstein, Jeffrey Berman, filed a motion on Monday asking a judge to essentially quash the charges against Epstein now that he's dead. But Berman maintains that his office will continue its investigation in bringing justice for Epstein's victims, and that likely includes the focus on any potential co-conspirators, as we've reported exclusively on, or extensively rather, on this. That is anyone among Epstein's friends and associates who may have been complicit or involved in his alleged crimes of sexual abuse, of rape, and sex trafficking of underage girls. And as those questions continue, we're learning new details today about a will that Epstein signed just 2 days before his death. The documents, including a petition for probate of the will and an enumeration of the estate's total property and assets worth more than $577 million, were filed last week in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Epstein's main residence is listed as his Little St. James Island. Now, the new will apparently leaves nothing to Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, as far as we know at this point, but instead puts everything of Epstein's into a trust called the 1953 Trust, the year that Epstein was born. That was created August 8th, the same day the will was signed, and again 2 days before Epstein's death. Now, 2 witnesses signed affidavits declaring Epstein signed the will willingly and of sound mind and under no constraints or undue influence. But certainly, that raises questions about Epstein. The fact that he signed it 2 days before his death, really feared for his life or planned to commit suicide. There are many theories swirling around Epstein's death that perhaps it wasn't suicide, but maybe somebody got to him in jail. There are other theories that perhaps Epstein was an intelligence asset, a reason he was able to dodge serious federal crimes back in 2008 when he pled out to lesser state crimes in Florida as part of that now infamous so-called sweetheart deal that was brokered by his team of lawyers and former Florida State AG Alex Acosta. There's nothing conclusive regarding those theories, only conjecture. Epstein's lawyer told RT that he believes that being locked up in a facility like the MCC, quote, would logically wreak havoc with one's body and mind, and that it could have played a role in Epstein's death. Again, that's inconclusive. But having said all that, the New York City chief medical examiner, as I mentioned earlier, ruled Epstein's death a suicide by hanging, and that Epstein, as we know, did leave a sordid trail of damage behind among those who accuse him of years of assault and harm. It's believed there are many other Epstein victims, Manila, who have yet to tell their stories as prosecutors continue to encourage them to come forward. Manila, back to you.
Absolutely. John Huddy, thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.